Hello, Mr. Newman. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Well, I mean, you were just saying it is cold today. Like up in Yorkshire, we've got our big coats on.
Yeah. And you guys are hardcore as well, aren't you? You guys can handle the cold. Not like us down south.
Everyone who knows me that I'm a pretty hardcore kind of guy.
That's what I've always thought. Not gonna lie. All right. So today on, I don't think this is necessarily going to be a new time slot, but we're in a little bit later. We're going to figure out a new time potentially. We'll talk about that off the live. So guys, look, we're going to talk to you about how to stop your feelings from sabotaging your health and fitness goals. Just quickly before we get into that, this isn't saying that you shouldn't feel anything or be in touch with your emotions or how you feel. You absolutely should be. Maybe the way to think about it is how maybe to control your emotions more. And that doesn't just come into like fitness and health, that comes into every aspect of your life. Because if we're quite, I guess, reactive with certain things, then it may not serve us. For example, I always think like, this is my example, like, you're driving along like everyone does. Everyone drives that can drive, right? And then someone cuts you up, but they go off on their little journey and they're gone. But you're in the car, you're raging, you've swore at them, you're so pissed off. You're going from work, you say hello to your missus. Your missus says to you, "What's wrong with you?" And you're like, you're just angry, right? Then you have an argument, and then you don't want to play with your kids, and you're in this little sulk. And the person that's actually the one that's affected you, they've gone. They've got no idea what's going on in your life. So it's that reactiveness of, and look, by the way, we all get a little bit of road rage. But if we continue to bring it home, we continue to, I don't know, go into work and be annoyed. So our stress levels right there. It's about how we react to certain things.
Yeah,
That's how I see it in my head.
yeah, exactly. And we were actually speaking about how with us, how our emotions and how we feel affects how we feel about our business, weren't we, earlier on today?
Yeah.
And then reflecting on it and actually going, what are the actual cast iron facts of the situation? And actually, you know what? It's winter, it's dark, it's cold. Christmas is, like we were saying, like build up to Christmas is nice, but then January can be a little bit kind of.
A little bit's an understatement, I reckon. January's just rubbish. Let's just say it how it is. It's rubbish.
Yeah, and exactly. So and when it comes to kind of we're health and fitness guys, when it comes to health and fitness, how we feel can affect the choices you make and the stuff you do, and whether you want to get up at whatever, if you go to the gym at 6 o'clock in the morning, whether you're going to do that or not. So even us kind of roughy tufty guys, we have to recognize that we are driven by our feelings pretty much in every choice we make.
Yeah, 100%. And like Tom said, the reason we thought we would do a live on this today is because, we do have feelings. We like, maybe as men we try and suppress them a little bit more than we probably should do, but we do, and we experience things. I don't know if we've got a little bit of a chat coming in there, but guys, yeah, if you are on and you're listening to this live, please feel free to engage and comment. But yeah, no, like, feelings can absolutely affect. They can affect our mood levels. They can affect what we want to do in terms of exercise, the foods we eat. So it's important to, I think, obviously not judge them as well. Like, I think what we do, we get in our heads a little bit of like, I shouldn't feel like this, or I should be doing that. And that comes into that sort of like maybe circle of beating yourself up a little bit. I knew I should have gone to the gym. I knew I should have done this. And that doesn't serve anyone. So sometimes you've got to be very kind to yourself and accept that it is dark, it is miserable, but adjust and be kind and go, yeah, maybe I'm not going to be on it as much as I would. Let's make sure you're not making excuses, because it's easy to let there be excuses, but accept sometimes that, maybe you feel a bit low. Yeah. Maybe your energy does feel a bit low, and the best way to get through it is to be okay with that.
Yeah, and like the example of the kind of taking stuff home is, or being annoyed by something and allowing it to spoil your day, is sometimes it's about questioning what's going on and why you're behaving in a certain way, and we do it all the time. We react to something that we think we're reacting to that thing, but actually it's something else. And the example I would kind of as a dad with two children trying to get out of the house, and I'm thinking I've got everything sorted. I'm thinking about my day. I'm thinking about the work, and maybe I've got to have a difficult conversation with a client or something like that. And I'm in my head, and then my kids are messing around. They haven't got the shoes on, and I'm ready to leave the house. So I shout at them because they haven't got their shoes on. And what I'm actually shouting at is I'm stressed out about that future place that I've made up in my head. And it's and I try, and we all do this, but it's a matter of just questioning it sometimes. And I suppose in terms of health and fitness, what do you think that is one of the things that people should think about when they're maybe not getting the result they want? Maybe
I think if let's just say what are we now, 18th of January, and we're quite into January. I'm sure there's lots of people that have had some New Year's goals, and I don't know. Maybe this last week's been a little bit harder than the previous weeks, because I think what we see normally the first few days, especially, or the first week, enthusiasm's up there, motivation's a little bit higher. You've gone to the gym, you've I don't know, had a good week, you lost some weight. Maybe when it comes to about this period, about 3 weeks in, the motivation dips a little bit. Yeah. The discipline's probably not quite there as much. Maybe the weight loss has slowed down a little bit. It can be a bit frustrating. I think what's really important is to recognize that you've done really well the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So if you haven't, for whatever reason, seen the results as much, or it's getting a little bit harder, take the time to reflect.
Yeah.
Don't look at that 1 week in isolation, or if the weight loss hasn't changed, or you haven't got to the gym as much, or you haven't done all these things. Look at it as a much bigger picture. And it's not just these 3 weeks or January or the next 3 months. It's about what you do for the next 6 months, the next year, the next 5 years. So I think take the time to reflect and celebrate the wins, like we got all our clients to do. Celebrate the wins, but also just on that, don't get too high with the highs. Celebrate them and feel good, but also don't get too low on the lows. You see it when a client goes, if someone's gained a pound, it's the worst thing in the world. But if someone's lost a pound, they go, I've only lost a pound. And it's only like £2 difference either way. So don't get too high. If you've lost 2, great. Don't be disappointed, because you get really annoyed when you've gained 2. So what's the difference in that?
Yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it? And I think you're exactly right. Reflecting on things that have gone well, and think about if you've got up in January and you've joined a gym and you've been a few times, you made those changes. Kind of celebrate those things. Give yourself a little bit of a pat on the back, because that's a great start, isn't it? It's you've 100%. Made a start, and you're moving on. And like we were talking before about kind of being grateful for stuff, sometimes is hard. Is not something we're taught, I guess, and sometimes it's hard to feel grateful for how well we're doing or the choices we're making. But that can be, you can learn, you can improve your ability to feel grateful. And there was a thing on Radio 4. I'm old enough to listen to Radio 4 now. And there's a guy who's talking about how as he gets older, he gets more and more able to appreciate his life and the stuff in his life, and even just walking down the street. And
you definitely do that. Yeah.
And the traffic jams are good. An example I use all the time is like if you get really good at being grateful for something, if you can be in that traffic jam and actually think, maybe kind of I'm stuck in this jam and I can't change it, but I'm just gonna, what can I be grateful for this moment? And I've got a specific thing in my head about I'm sat in traffic jam with my son. Okay, I've got an extra 2 or 3 minutes to talk to him and ask him about his day and
nice.
and bond with him. Or I can look out and think, what can I see in the countryside around me which I haven't seen before? And it's something that I don't think I had the ability to do as quickly until I started practicing it.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, because what's the alternative? Just sat there getting agitated.
Well, that's what you see. That's what you see, the people getting kind of like, I'm pissed off. I'm stuck in this traffic jam, and I'm going to be late for that meeting, and it's going to be a terrible day. And you get to work, and you screech into the car park, and you might bump your car because you're not concentrating. So you're getting in the car, and you run into the office, and you're stressed out, and you have a little bit of a kind of, you bite at somebody who kind of annoys you, and it's all been because you've built this little story up. Whereas if you just kind of taken stock. Again, these it just takes, it can take a bit of practice. Like you say, it does take practice, because
if you just look at, by the way, what is normal, but like if you look at like what's normal, most people be like, I'm stuck in a traffic jam. The last thing I'm going to do is think about what I'm grateful for. But
Yeah.
you're there. You might as well, if you are with your son or your daughter, like take that time, ask them some questions, like, you know, get them to like join in the fun of like, you know, what do you see outside that you haven't seen before? So yeah, I think stuff like that's really, really like powerful, because again, the more, and I think we've touched on this before, like the more you do things like that, the more you integrate gratitude into your daily life, the more you will be grateful for things, because you'll start to see more things that there is to be grateful for. I think this was a podcast I listened to, and this is what I do every day, and I thought it was really powerful. There was a guy on there, I can't remember who it was. It was on Stephen Bartlett's, I think, and he was a really top guy at like a lot of sports teams. And he used to, it was a couple of things he used to do. He used to leave everything at the door. That was one of the things he did. And he would offload everything into his car. So when he was driving home, he'd have about a 20-minute, 30-minute commute, and he'd offload everything. So when he come in, that's his time to be present with his family and kids. I thought that was great. And then the second thing he did was his daughter used to do things she was grateful for. So she'd do a gratitude diary, 3 things. And what he overheard her doing was that she picked 3 new things every single day. So it wasn't the same things, you know, I'm grateful for my family, I'm grateful for my friends, I'm grateful for my house, you know, these things. She picked 3 new things each day. So then it gets you to really think about, what am I grateful for? And suddenly you have this list of maybe, I don't know, you do it for 10 days, you've got like 30 things. You do it for, you know, a month, you've got 90 things to be grateful for.
That's like, what a cool thing. What a cool list of stuff.
Yeah.
And I guess you can go back over that. Sorry, man, I think we spoke over. I guess you can go back to that list, can't you? You can go back and go, do you know, I have all this massive, these things in my life which I can be grateful for, because sometimes if we are feeling a little bit kind of down when it's cold and wet, it's sometimes hard to recognize those things. But if you've got a list and you say you were the same person who wrote those things, maybe yesterday, day before, you can look at those and go, do you know, I'm the same person now, and I have all this stuff in my life. I think that's a great idea.
It's awesome, isn't it? She came out of that herself, and her dad just happened to be walking past, and she was in her room just writing them down, and 3 different things each day, which is what I do now. Every morning, 3 different things, because I want my brain to actually take the time to think of those 3 new things every day, because then I'm sort of connecting with them and actually taking the time to go, God, there's actually quite a lot to be grateful for. And the reason why this is important, I think, for people that are listening, is like, the more you can get into a gratitude mindset or an abundance mindset of thinking about all the things that are good, then you're not going to get beaten up by so much negativity. And we all do it, by the way. And this is the reason why we've done this talk on this subject today, because I've been a little bit more negative in my mindset of the things I'm not getting done and business not moving forward as much as quick as I want it to. And, you know, I've had to do things on my house and all these things. And then you take the time to reflect, which I did with Tom, and go, I've done a lot in the last year to be proud of what I've done, but we'll always go to those things that we're not doing. So that's why
I think that's a human condition, isn't it? I think we are. I remember learning about kind of evolution and evolutionary. There's no benefit in focusing on positive things, because positive things don't save you. Whereas if you're out in the wild, when I don't know, and there's a saber-toothed tiger chasing you down, you want to think about all the bad things that might happen to save you from it.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're I don't know, if you're a caveman walking through it thinking of all these fantastic, lovely stuff and all butterflies and things, then like you're not going to notice that saber-toothed tiger, and it's going to come and eat you. So I guess we are driven to do that, and I think that's probably why the news. It's protection. That's why the news is full of shit. I mean, full of kind of. There's never any fun stories, is there? There's never any. They might put one at the end, like here's a bit of a nice thing at the end, but it's after all like a raft of kind of negativity and stuff, which I guess you need to know about to be aware of, but kind of it just.
I stopped watching the news 3 years ago.
Well, I mean, I do occasionally look at the news, but I rely on maybe I shouldn't. I rely on other people to tell me something really important that I need to know.
Exactly. If there's anything really important that I need to know, I'm going to find out. That's anything that's big and relevant to my life. Because again, I emphasize that, like anything that's big and relevant to my life, because the thing is, we often get caught up in the things outside our life that we can't control.
Yeah.
And then, we know anxiety is on the rise and depression. And the more you listen to things that make you anxious, the more you'll almost attract those things. Like you see things like health anxiety. So then you get a pain in your side, and then you Google it, and then it could be anything. Then your brain's, and then you keep doing that, and you almost get this just cycle of things that can make you feel anxious. So I think it's important to, again, if you're looking at emotions, and control the things that you can control in your life. Certain things that are just out of your control, you just have to just let them go. But what you can do is control what goes in your life, whether that's the news you consume, the food you consume, the exercise you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing that I think sometimes leads to people feeling like they're not doing well is a lack of tracking, and maybe not tracking your numbers in terms of if it's a body measurement, or if it's a weight in the gym. It's something that I occasionally fall out of, even though I'm into fitness and stuff. Occasionally I won't track my stuff in the gym. But the last few months, me and my gym buddy, we've started tracking a bit more, and there is definitely a motivation there. And I think, don't feel like I'm progressing. I don't feel like I'm doing well. I don't think I'm getting to where I want to be. But actually, if I look at my numbers, I'm like, oh, do you know what? Actually, I've increased a few reps. I've increased the weight. And do you know what? It reminded me last week. I had a look through, and I was like, oh, and it buoyed me up because I was feeling a bit kind of lethargic, and I was in the gym and I wasn't feeling particularly energetic, and I didn't think I'd added on any reps, but I had. So I think you need to know your numbers. You need to know you're progressing. Sorry, rather than just kind of feel like you're not or feel like you are. It's important both ways.
Yeah, and I would look at it as like, we love that saying, what gets measured gets managed. Anyone that's been in a Tim Drummond program knows that. And it's true. Like the things that if you can measure progress, you're much more likely to manage it, whether that's tracking your weight, your measurements, photos, your workouts. And it also feels good. If you get to a Friday and you go, I've had 3 workouts this week, and you see it on some sort of tracking device. I use an app called Strong, which is really good. I see those 3 workouts, so I can see them. I'm like, and then it does this little cool bar chart over a month, and I can see that, and it gives me that. I'm like, oh yeah, I've been really consistent. Then that feels good. It's like another little tick in that, like wins column. And again, they actually say that you're much more likely to manage your weight if you weigh yourself regularly. They actually say every day that right. you're much more likely to manage your weight. And I see it a little bit like the same as managing your bank account. I know for certain if I'm checking my bank account every day, seeing what's going in and out, I'm more likely to manage my bank account. So again, that's a tough one sometimes when it comes to emotion, because weight can definitely be emotional. So I'd say if you are listening to this and you're thinking, well, maybe I should do it every day, do figure out what works for you. Because again, I think what we often do is we do things that aren't necessarily individualized. You've got to try and find, of course, there's some science. You have to follow the science, but you also have to figure out what works for you, and people follow people's different plans, because it's worked for, I don't know, Dave, and he lost 20 pounds, but Dave's a different person to you. So you've got to figure out what works for you.
Yeah. And there's no right or wrong, is there? There's no, and it's better to be, I don't know, maybe sometimes people search for the perfect way of doing it. I would say it's better to go, I'm going to take imperfect action. I'm going to do what I think it works, and I'll try that. And the numbers will tell you if it's working or not.
And that's why you've got to track the numbers, because you need to know if it's working.
And if you are tracking numbers and it's not working, then that is also useful information, because it tells you what you're doing is not working and something has to change. And it's kind of both sides are very, very important. You need to make sure that they're not driven by, I feel like I was speaking to a guy, was it this week or last week? And he says, well, I'm feeling a bit lighter. Do you know, I'm feeling, and I suspect if I spoke to him maybe, I don't know, a few weeks earlier, maybe over Christmas, he'd be like, oh, I feel a bit heavier. But he didn't know. I mean, he don't know. That is purely, I mean, you might feel more bloated because you've eaten some crappy food which your body doesn't like, or it could be related to anything. but it's not related to his goal, which was losing weight and being a healthy weight. So it's a tricky one. Like you say, it's an emotive issue of your weight, and we're talking about emotions, but it definitely is, because if you struggle to jump on the scales, the reason you struggle is because there's an emotion behind it. Because if it was a rational thing, you just step on, it's just a number.
Yeah, it is hard as well, and it comes down to that self-image as well. You want to look in the mirror and everyone wants to look good. You want to look good and you want to feel good, and that's going to have on the way you show up and act, it's going to have an effect. If you're not feeling good, you're not going to be your best self, are you? If you don't feel like you look good, you're not going to be your best self either, and that comes into like body confidence, and there's so much psychology that goes into that. And again, that's important to take the time to reflect on. That it's hard, and you're gonna feel some emotions up and down. Like I said, when you get on a high because you've lost some weight, but you get on a bit of a low because you've gained weight, those feelings are hard to manage.
Yeah.
But I think if you can, again, in those times, be kind to yourself and know that you're on a journey. It takes time. You need patience. There's going to be some ups and downs, and almost just get that feeling that comes in and go, okay, that's a feeling. That's not me. I'm not a bad person because I've gained some weight. I'm not the best person in the world because I've lost some weight, and just be. And this is hard, by the way, guys. It's really hard to manage this. But the more you can, the easier it'll be to almost like accept those feelings and emotions and move forwards.
Yeah. Well, let's give some people watching some value. Well, what's a couple of things that people could do right now to work on this?
All right. So just to give you some thoughts as well, like this is quite it's a bit of more of a difficult one for us to sort of talk about and say go and do this. Whereas, if we're talking about tracking calories, we could go right, go and do that. Or if we're talking about 5 tips to lose weight, you can go right, go and do that. So I think it's about. I guess
I like the gratitudes in the morning. I think that
I think you can definitely do that in terms of get into that positive mindset. So I'd certainly recommend, if you don't practice gratitude now, do it, and also if you've got kids, get them to do it too, because it's really fun. In fact, that reminds me. So I don't know if Troy's watching this. Hopefully, Troy. I'm name dropping one of my clients. He's got a boy who's I think he was like, he's about 6, I think. Cass, his name is, and he was struggling with basically feeling like at some point his mum and dad aren't going to be around, and he was getting all like emotional before bed. So what Troy did was like, he just flipped it and just said, right, what we're going to do every night, you're going to write down, or you're going to tell me 3 things you're grateful for. And he just started getting his son to do that, and he'd look forward to it. Daddy, I'm grateful for these 3 things, and all that stopped. He's not thinking about what is going to happen in the future. And this is a kid, by the way. He's saying 3 things like that he was grateful for each evening. So do that and get your kids to do it too. It's powerful.
And I say that one thing we mentioned: if know your numbers, and again, that's sometimes not easy tracking some things, but start thinking about how can I track my numbers so I know I'm progressing. We're goals-driven people. The humans kinds of goals-driven, and if you've got a goal and you're moving towards it, then you're going to feel good about it. And if you feel yourself not moving if you know you're not moving towards it by the numbers, you can also do something about it rather than just guessing.
Yeah, 100%. So I'd look at gratitude diary, and that's a simple thing to do. Literally write down 3 things you're grateful for, either in the morning or the evening. Know your numbers. So look, track your weight, so you know where if you're making progress or not. But don't just track your weight as well. Do measurements and do photos, because your weight might not always change, but you might change measurements, or you might look like you're moving forward. Also, your clothes might get looser. So those are all key metrics that you're moving forward. So it's not just the weight, and also celebrate those wins. If you've been to the gym 3 or 4 times, if you've eaten healthy, celebrate those wins, so then it isn't just all on the weight. And I was thinking of one more, and last one, because I think 3 things to take away is really cool. my one would just be kind to yourself.
Yeah, we beat ourselves up, don't we? I think
So
again,
much.
I think everybody does it, and it kind of maybe it comes down to that practice and actually being kind of grateful for yourself, grateful for the things that you're good at, recognizing those things you're good at. Something that I ask my clients a lot is right at the beginning is kind of tell me one thing you're really, really good at. Tell me one thing you're awesome at that better than everybody else. And we all have something, don't we, that we're good at. And sometimes that can be hard. Sometimes people go,
But if you said, tell me something you're not good at, straight away.
Yeah,
probably
10,
like
20.
10 things as well.
Yeah, exactly.
I think there's a little bit of us is like an English thing as well. We never like to admit we're good at stuff. We're just like, so like you'd win like I don't know. I'd imagine us winning actually win the World Cup once, and our celebrations would be like muted. Oh yeah, we won the World Cup. I hope they wouldn't. Not like the Argentinians who basically partied for about 2 weeks. We're just like, you know, I think we're just a little bit like that as a nation. Whereas we should fucking own our wins.
Yeah, definitely.
Anything else to add?
No, that's it. I'm gonna say just even us guys recognize that we're driven by emotion and take a bit of time out just to question it sometimes, not judge it, just think, why am I acting this way? Is it a reality, the reason I'm acting, or is it something else? Am I kind of beating myself up too much? Again, it's just about questioning it and just trying to raise that awareness a bit.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, nothing to add from me. I think again we see it, especially with clients, and I'm always saying, so like, do you think it'd be more beneficial to you if you were just a bit kinder to yourself? And they always like laugh a little bit, and yeah, I do beat myself up a little bit, don't I? I'm like, well, what do you think? They're like, yeah, I do. All right. Well, do you think it'd be more beneficial? Yeah, I would. Like, it's just that same conversation. They're always like, yeah, I would. And like, I know I'm guilty of it as well, but it doesn't serve anyone. One thing I'd say, just the last thing though on that, is like, doesn't mean you let yourself off. You know, there's being kind, but there's also knowing there's certain things that you should be doing and stepping up that you'll maybe not be doing, or you could be doing. So be kind, but also don't let yourself off, because you need to move forward as well.
Absolutely, man.
All right. Again, as always, we appreciate any likes, comments, feedback. We'll go live again at some point. We'll think of a subject, but if there's anything you want us covering, just post in the comments and we'll be happy to talk about it.
Yeah, let us know.
All right, my battery's about to die. All right. Cheers, man. Cheers, everyone. Bye.
Cheers,